weekly commentaries on the Bible and the Bhagavad Gita by Swami Kriyananda. This is entitled Reason versus Intuition. Truth is one and eternal. Realize oneness with it in your deathless self within. The following commentary is based on the teachings of Paramahansa Yogananda. Jesus, when addressing his critics, appealed to reason and common sense. In his training of the disciples, however, he, like all great masters, encouraged in them the development of a higher faculty, soul intuition. For it is only by intuition that spiritual perceptions are achieved. In chapter 16 of the Gospel of St. Matthew, we find Jesus drawing on the intuition of his disciples by asking them who they thought he was in reality. They immediately understood that what he wanted from them was a subtle answer, not some obvious reply based on his nationality, sex, and the like. Peter it was at last who understood and answered the question on its intended level, the spiritual. "Thou art the Christ," he said, "the Son of the living God." And Jesus turned to him and said, "Blessed art thou, Simon, son of Jonah, for not by human nature was this truth revealed to thee, but by my heavenly Father. And I tell thee also, thou art Peter, which is to say a rock, and upon this rock will I build my church, and never will the powers of darkness overwhelm it." Jesus was pleased with his disciple for relating to the question on its deepest level. Reason could not have given Peter that answer. The answer came through the faculty of soul intuition and proved him thereby to be a spiritually advanced disciple. It was his intuitive perception, that insight, which cannot be shaken by tempests of reasonable doubt, that Jesus praised him in referring to him as a rock. The church he referred to next was the edifice of cosmic consciousness. Any outer church institution would have to depend, as in fact the Christian churches have always done, on the level of understanding of its individual leaders and members. Peter's intuitive perceptions could never have been passed on to an outward succession of prelates. Clarity comes by direct soul perception. Confusion results from excessive dependence on reason as the guide to understanding. As the second chapter of the Bhagavad Gita states, when your intellect, at present confused by the diversity of teaching in the scriptures, becomes steadfast in the ecstasy of deep meditation, then you will achieve final union with God. Thus, through Holy Scripture, God has spoken to mankind. And from Whispers from Eternity, Paramahansa Yogananda, entitled, "Make me see that I am but an actor in thy cosmic motion picture. Beholding the ever-changing sound and motion pictures of life, I am aware that this turbulent dancing show is only a vast illusion. The tragedies, comedies, and paradoxes of life, the dreams of birth and death, the changing scenes and places that surge around us, all these are nothing but movies designed to engage us in the cosmic illusion. O divine operator, with thy cosmic vibratory light, thou dost show us ever new thrills, a motion picture true to all five senses, keeping us amused and entertained through sight, sound, smell, taste, and touch. O magic operator, thy true seeming spectacle beams daily onto the screens of our consciousness. I take it as thy grace that I have been chosen to play both tragic and comic parts in thy drama. I am happy to have acted all those parts, both of sorrow and of joy. Still, Father, give me now and then a few days of respite from my task. Let me retire to my closet of introspection and stand before my own thought audiences and behold with laughing heart all the tragedies and comedies I have enacted. Teach me to look upon all that happens in my life with a pleased, interested attitude, that at the end of each episode, no matter how sad or difficult, I may exclaim, "Oh, that was a good show, full of thrills, suspense, and excitement. I'm happy to have seen it, and I have learned much from it for my own benefit." Roma, and she has the advantage of being women, because women seem to have a real upper hand with intuition. In the 30 years so that we've been married, she always seems to know first what's the next thing for us. And that's just how it's been, and I think it's fun, and I've certainly accepted that. And if she hasn't been able to figure out perhaps what's the next step, then at least she's told by someone else what the next step is. And so that has, again, been fascinating for me, because I'm always on my toes, and that's good. That's good for all of us. So in this one particular episode of our lives, we had been at the Expanding Light, the retreat facility at Ananda Village, for over 10 years. And for about a year and a half, she was feeling inside that it was time for a change. And I thought, well, why? You're here at the retreat, and the guests come from all over the world, and there's such a wonderful staff here, and on it goes. And so why? So for a year and a half, I didn't say no, that wouldn't have been appropriate, but I was still wondering, why? Why was she coming up with this? But inside, I could begin to feel a shift. And I wasn't alarmed by it, but I was watching. And I guess I'm a bit of a slow fellow, so it took me a year and a half. So finally, I woke up one day, and I said to her, okay, I'm going to walk in. We were managing at the time in a management team. And so I said, okay, I'm going to go in and tell Gyandev I quit. And so she said, great. She was all for it. And it was, really a courageous move, a daring move, hopefully not a stupid move. We had just built our house some years before. Our daughter was 7 years old. And, okay, here we go. So I went in and talked with Gyandev, and he was a bit shocked because we had been managing for some time. It had been going very well and so forth. But I said, take as much time as you want to find someone else. In other words, I'm not saying goodbye today. That wouldn't have been right, obviously. And so, as it turned out, Jyotish and Devi got wind of it. I think they might have been in Europe at the time and just coming back. And so, as it turned out, the next weekend, they asked us if we wanted to go to the seclusion retreat and manage the program there. And as we had found out sometime later, Swami had in mind for us to do just that, to work with the new members that were coming in, and it was a wonderful opportunity for us. And one of the sweet experiences in all of that was that Anandi and Bharat, who were managing the seclusion retreat for many years up there, when they found out, we greeted Anandi there at the Master's Market that there's at the village, and I saw her from a distance, and all of a sudden she came running up. And this isn't really, like Anandi, but there it was, and she was just filled with this, childlike joy, and she gave me a big, huge hug and said, "Thank you." And I thought, oh my God, what are we getting ourselves into? If she's that excited about, this switch. And we switched everything. We switched houses. At Ananda, this happens a lot. We switched houses, we switched jobs. And in one weekend, we switched all of our stuff and all of that, and we began the experience. Seclusion Retreat is the first property that Swami Kriyananda purchased. Perhaps you're aware of that. Now, I've always considered it Little India. It has such a high vibration. It's one of the places, as of course we know here in India, where I would say to guests that would come, for the first time I'd say, you'll love that temple. It meditates for you. Just walk in and you'll see it meditates for you. It's got that much power. And just like India, and I guess it's why I consider it Little India, on the physical plane, perhaps it's a little bit less so now, but on the physical plane then, it just terrorized you. And when we were managing, very, very common, it would be snowing, because it snows up there. It's at 3,000 feet, and it's the Sierra Nevada foothills. And so 1 a.m, banging on the door of our place, one of the guests had run out of their propane tank, their gas tank, and would I be able to fill it for them? Sure, where do you live? Where are you? And you haul these heavy tanks, and so forth. And finally, your hands are freezing. You hope you can finish the job, and so on. And so we were there for about 6 years. By Roma's intuition, as it turned out, we went from the seclusion retreat out into the colonies, and at one point in Palo Alto, where we were serving and managing, the call came from India. Come on. And so I think to myself, and of course this experience for us has been such a privilege. I think to myself, if I had been stubborn, I'm the man of the house, I'm the provider, all the things I could have said, then I could have continued to be at the expanding light, which would have been wonderful. But she had sensed that spiritually it was time, and it's always quite a dance with couples. It's a dance with anyone to try to figure these things out, major moves. But with a couple and with a child, how to figure this one out. But look what it did. We had this fabulous experience there in Little India, meeting so many, many friends that we have to this day from all over the world. And then in time, it brought us here. And so for us, God has given us a head. God has given us a heart. But a lot of people get landlocked in their head, and they won't consult their heart because they're afraid that consulting the heart is risky business. Because the heart says, okay, so you're broke. Forget it, quit your job. So, you have this circumstance. That's all right. It'll work out. There's a safety net, all of these kinds of things. And it doesn't mean to be idiots. Because, again, faith and presumption. We, no doubt, we've lived long enough, that we have gone with presumption from time to time, and we hit the wall, and it hurts, and it's no fun. We think, I'm going to, do this startup, or I'm going to, whatever it might be. And as it turned out, we didn't really do our homework. And again, we've been given a mind and a heart. We need to consult both so that they are one. They're brothers and sisters. And so I love to crunch numbers. It's fun for me, which is kind of ironic. Because as a bookkeeper, I'm an absolute bomb, but I love to crunch numbers. And so years ago, my aunt, she had helped us with a loan to build our house. And so, I don't know, about a year later, I said to my aunt, because I finally consulted my checkbook, and I said, Ellie, she was like my second mother. I said, you haven't cashed any of my checks for the last 12 months. She says, oh, I know. I didn't intend to. I never balanced my checkbook. And I said, oh my gosh, I feel so embarrassed because I never balanced my checkbook either. So I didn't even know that all this time you weren't interested in having the loan paying back. You were just giving me a gift. And so I'm not recommending that you don't balance your checkbook. And I am recommending don't see me about your bookkeeping. Go see this one, Amrita. She'll help you, and her consultants and so forth. But really, it becomes a real joy when we understand that balance of reason and intuition. It becomes a voyage of experimentation. It becomes a voyage of trust, where bit by bit, and it's really not that difficult, we want to start with the small things, always the small things. We had a large project at one point at the seclusion retreat. We built a kitchen and a dining room, a large project. But you start by building a birdhouse. And that's exactly what we did, almost. I didn't build a birdhouse, but I had a small project many years prior to that. And then, some years elapsed, and then, again, on faith and so forth, we built our house. And then the larger project came our way. And so again, as we're consulting our common sense, our experience, our intuition, then we have to go at it. Unless you're Swami Kriyananda. When Swami Kriyananda came onto the scene and started Yogananda's first World Brotherhood colony, he bought the seclusion retreat on faith, 72 acres, a big deal. That property was purchased in 1967. We began retreats there in 1968. In 1969, now that's not a long time, he bought this huge piece of property, 240 acres, now it's 4 times that, Ananda Village. And when he went there, at the office, a realtor's office, he saw, a particular parcel. In California, there are like 40-acre parcels. He says, I'll take that. He had no money. And so he said, that's pretty expensive, And how about the other one? Well, is that available? Yes, it is. I'll take that. And that, and that, and that, and that. And, most people would have thought that, time for him to take a break. And I remember Seva, who was the bookkeeper one time, we did get all of those things. It all worked out, all of those parcels. Swami said, well, how's it going? She was doing the finances in the early years. She said, Swami, it's great. We paid everything and I have 67 cents left in the checkbook. And Ananda continues that way, because this is the way that we grow. But it has to be grounded. And that's why Ananda is successful, because Swami, although from time to time he would make these daring moves, India was a daring move for him. He was in his mid-70s, he was in ill health, and he came here because he felt the Master wanted him to be here. And it's to our great good fortune that he ended his last years because he was focused here, totally focused here as we continue to be and throughout the world. And so I remember one time too, years ago with Swami, he wanted to come to India. And he had been barred through red tape for about 10 years. And it was a real hardship for him because India really was his first love. He says, of all the cities I love in America, India, or in the world, is Kolkata. And I thought, how sweet. Master, of course, was born there. It's got so much power. Of course, you tear your hair out too in Kolkata with all the things that you deal with in the physical plane. But is that what we are wanting to focus on? Absolutely not. It's the depth that's there. And so Swami finally, in the early 70s, he had been putting out enormous amounts of energy to found Ananda. He had, a little bit of money that it was given to him by friends, and so he was going to go to India, and we were just thrilled for him. But then his car broke down. And the money that he had saved for India was gone now because he needed a car. He wasn't in the city any longer. He was there in the country. And so we were driving with him. There were a few of us, maybe 3 or 4, driving down to San Francisco as he was trying to figure out what to do. Was this a sign to give up India now? He was in a real dilemma because he could feel that pull. As we talk about when the shrines here and throughout the world, no doubt, pull on you, the saint pulls on you, then that's the time to go on pilgrimage. And then you get a very rich experience. And he could feel that pull. But he needed the car. So he said, Divine Mother, I'm not getting any guidance. He was asking for guidance. What shall I do? Obviously, this was major. He said, but my common sense tells me that I need a car. So all the money I've saved, I'm putting into what turned out to be a good used car. And you, Divine Mother, are going to have to reimburse me. Now, not everyone can talk to her like that. It's a good thing to do if we can pull it off. But he could, such was his relationship. Well, a few days, maybe a week elapsed, and he got a check for $1,000, which the car had cost him $1,100. And that was the money he had saved to go to India. In those early days, it wasn't as expensive. And there was a little note that said, use this as Divine Mother directs you. And he said, I've never got, ever, a little note from anybody because no one knows who Divine Mother is. God, Krishna, Jesus Christ, and this one and that one, Mother Mary. Divine Mother, that's how Master called God, Divine Mother. The mother's closer than the father. And he said, what an amazing thing. And so quick. Use this as Divine Mother so directs. And so, of course, off he went to India. And that really did pave the way for then many years later, because he would talk about India, and he would want to, he wanted very much to establish a work here. We had, through his being an instrument for Master, we were well established in the States. We were well established then in Italy. He was there for 7 years. And yet there was one more puzzle part that was needed, and that was here. And as he said, and as I love to share, he says, in America I can share so much. In Italy, Yogananda's patron saint was, very interestingly, St. Francis. In Italy I can share much more, but in India I can share everything. And I've always appreciated that. And in our travels and teaching, Roma and I certainly feel that to be true. And we love the various places that we've gone and spent time and taught. But in India, when we stand up here and teach, we think, who is teaching who? This is just satsang. This is just the joy of spending time with spiritual family. And so for us, it really, really does take an act of will to make sure that we stay balanced with drawing upon the inspiration, the blessings, all of these things from both common sense and intuition, and to grow our intuition. And we usually do ourselves a good turn by just starting, in a small way. And so for me, I'll give you an example. It's a silly example, but I'll give it anyway. On Monday, because we get Monday off, and we're always wishing, one another happy Monday, no matter where you're going. But from Monday, I'll go have coffee and go and read the newspaper, because it's fun for me, again, to read the Indian newspapers. And so Roma's gone, so I can have other times to maybe go and have coffee and read a newspaper. So, I guess it was a couple days ago, and I thought, okay, this is looking good, the phone calls are in pretty good shape, and, this and that in the office. I think I'll go and have coffee and newspaper. No. Inside. No, I can't go. What? What are you talking about? I need nurturing. My better half's been gone now nearly 2 months. What is this? It's a little thing. No, I can't go. Very shortly thereafter, it started to rain. And I thought, that's great. I loved that, because I didn't really want to get wet. And besides, it turned out I had a million things to do around here anyway, which I thought I hadn't had, because when it's coffee and paper, all of your obligations disappear. But when all of a sudden she said no, and it started to rain, they reappeared. And so I was, busy for the rest of the day, and happily so. And it is so sweet. As Swamiji has said, when God does the big things for us, then there is really that expectation that Divine Mother will come through. Because it's beyond us. It's Himalayan. How can we handle these things? But when she does the little things, there oftentimes can be such a heart opening experience from that, such a sweetness, because somehow, some way, there was a knock at the door. I'll give you another example. I, from time to time, pray for inner and outer encouragement. And when I do, I mean business, because I want both. As Master said, if you have wholesome desires, go after them. So I figure, okay, I always need inner encouragement, but there may be some outer encouragement too. So fine, and I was needing it. And so I was, on some errands, and out of nowhere, 2 people, and we love kids, and a bunch of kids were there. It was up by the Sudarshan Vidya Mandir school. Where are you from? And they were two adults, really sweet, and all the kids were clustering around. Where are you from? Oh, I'm from California. Oh, California. They always, if I said Idaho or something, I don't know if they would know, but California. Okay. Oh, and talking, and then, back and forth. How long have you been here, and so on. The whole thing was really just like a little satsang there on the street. And the kids, more and more came. Finally, I thought, boy, I better get out of here, and so I did. And then, as I walked around the corner, one of the rickshaw drivers, and I'm pretty sure I know him because I'm always on rickshaws. Then he waved, "Hi, how are you doing? Good," that kind of thing. And then I passed by a guy I didn't know, and again, "Oh, namaskar." 4 people, and then add all the kids, another 20 or something. And I thought, Divine Mother, this is great stuff. This is great stuff. How many times are you going to have to remind me that you're omnipresent? That I wanted a little encouragement, and that was it. And I told you, and look what you did. I mean, I had uttered the prayer, maybe half an hour before, and so you mobbed me with all these people. Oh, California, dum dum. They could have brought out the marching band. It was just so dear, and so as we learn the importance of putting our hands in God's hands, in partnership, as our lover, as our friend, as our business partner, whatever. But the main thing, keeping our hands in God's hands and in Guru's hands. We see again and again and again that the little things, the medium-sized things, the Himalayan challenges, somehow Divine Mother just makes them all happen. And that's why we say at Ananda, and it's a good mantra, what is trying to happen here? Good thing to ask even on a daily basis, so that we continue to stay in tune. And so in this balance of the mind and the heart, and intuition and common sense and all of these various things, we need to be true to ourselves, because otherwise we get out of balance. We have to be double-checking, and if we feel we have some intuition, then see if indeed it is true intuition. And then proceed slowly, because otherwise we can get kind of excited. We get a revelation, an intuition. 10 years later, we wake up and we go, oh my God, that was only to go 100 yards, a kilometer or 2. And then there was that very clear road sign. Turn left. But we got so excited that, finally we got, the voice of God or something. And then we, had to learn the needed lessons. And why do that? Time is short. Life is short. And so the blessing of intuition, born of meditation. If there's any incentive to meditate regularly, it can be that. Because it's the fruit of meditation to grow our intuition and test it in little things. How can I find a parking place? In big things, in all the things that you can, and keep it polished. Work with your intuition every single day. And you will see, like a muscle, it will grow. But then don't get into the habit of, now that I'm an intuitive yogi, forget the mind. It's just caused me nothing but grief. Forget it. I'll think about it maybe in a decade or so. Its track record is horrible. Don't do that. We need our heart. We need our mind. We need these body temples. We need to experience all of these things, and at the same time, as the Jnani, be a little distant from all of this. And that's why this beautiful poem from Whispers, it's a movie show. Thank you that you allowed me to play all the comic and tragic parts. Thank you for that. But can you give me some time off from time to time so that I can introspect, get my bearings, get back into my spine, so that, again, I can keep my priorities straight, which, of course, is God alone. Okay? God bless you.